Hi everybody, I'm Jacqueline Jones Doyle. I'm the Ag and Natural Resources Agent for here in Tarrant County. I'd like to introduce our first speaker for tonight, Mr. Jeff Raska, the incredible retired AgriLife agent.
Keyword retired, happily retired.
Which he was a horticulture agent over in Dallas County. He did a little bit of home gardening, a little bit of chicken raising, a little bit of backyard everything.
The farm, everything. Had a farm, had everything.
Farm, the vineyard, as we like to say in extension, jack of all trades, master of none. So,
Yeah, that's for sure.
so that being said, I'll turn the presentation over to Mr. Jeff.
Thank you. Well, good evening. What a great crowd. Thanks for coming out. I'll crack up the voice here going on. What I don't want you to do tonight is I don't want you to leave with questions, okay? Just ask as we go if you need to. If you want to stay a little bit, I'll stay a little bit after, answer questions and stuff. I don't want you to go away with questions. And I'm not trying to sell you chickens either, okay? I'm not trying to talk you into it or out of it. That's never been my deal. My game is not that. I'm going to tell you the truth about them. I've had them I was with A&M for 14 years. Before that, I was 25 years in agriculture. So I've been in this game a long time, and I've seen a lot of things and talked to a lot of people and had a lot of good experience from feedback from audiences and from people telling me what they did and what they didn't do or what worked and what didn't work. But I want you to be successful if you want to do this. This is not, and let me get this right out of the way, okay? This is not the solution to high egg prices, okay? It is absolutely not. You put $1,000 in the coop, you get it together, you do this, it's an ongoing thing. They lay every 27 hours. We talked about that. About every 27 hours, they cycle one bird, one egg, and they'll do that in the springtime. They'll do that in the summertime a little bit, and then they're going to slow down. Most breeds will slow down in the winter and slow down in the heat of the summer. The reason why is innately they don't want to make babies in summer or winter. It doesn't make sense. With summertime, back their ancestors, which we'll look at a little bit. I'll show you a little bit about that. But back in the day, when they get the innate behaviors, they didn't want to have babies in this time, certainly in the wintertime. Chickens have to use this energy. A hen takes about 20% of her calcium supply to lay an egg, okay? You do that every day, and you see how that happens. You see, and it's equivalent of one of you ladies passing a bowling ball, okay? Do that every day, see how that makes you feel. They get really weakened during lay season. You got to keep them fed, you got to keep them healthy, you got to keep them in good shape, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So let's get a clicker working and get rolling. It work. Number one, know your laws. If you're in the city, sure. If you're in the city, if you're in the country, you might not have restrictions or anything. If you're in the city, you're going to have restrictions most likely. Fort Worth, Tarrant County, it's going to be whomever. Dallas County has different ones. Even each municipality from city to city, Benbrook to different areas have different laws and how many you can have. Typically, it's on how many hens you can have, and basically sometimes there's housing requirements, there's different requirements. You could also understand this, that if it's legal to have 6, get 6, okay? Don't get 20. Start with 3. Well, they do. The chicken, we were talking earlier, chicken math is horrible. I'll go up and say, how many do you have? I don't know. If you don't know how many chickens you got too many, right? If you can't count them, then you got too many. So understand that there's reasons why we put these orders. I've worked with municipalities all over the country. I work with Washington, D.C. I work with a lot of people in backyard chickens, specifically on how to make this work and how to make it work. Can you hear me okay in the back? Okay. I want to make sure you can hear it. So I want to make sure you can hear enough. But it's important to understand, stay within the law. It only takes 2 or 3 complaints for city council to start fired up, okay? It really does. I've worked with city councils all over the country. And it takes very, very short, they don't have very good attention spans for the most part, and they're ready to take things away at times. So be careful with what you're doing and just get what you're supposed to get. No, you're not going to typically have a rooster allowed because you don't need the rooster to lay an egg. Number one, you do not need a rooster to lay an egg, okay? Hen's going to be, there's been old studies back in the 70s and 80s that were behavioral studies. Lots of behavioral studies have been done on them. A hen flock tends to be happier than a flock with a rooster. Now go figure that out. I know, look at the ladies. Ladies all shaking their head, yeah. Guys are all looking confounded, right? How could that happen? Well, it's just the way it is. Hens typically, they take over. If you got a hen flock, No rooster. You're going to have a dominant hen, and she's going to take over. She will take the duties of the rooster, and she will lead the flock. She will be the dominant. She will be the one that goes out first. She'll be the one that eats first. She'll be the one that drinks first. She'll also be the one that starts looking for predators in different areas. So she'll be the dominant one. So you don't have to have a rooster. If you want babies, do we need a rooster? Yeah, we need a rooster. Because that rooster, if you got a rooster, he will mount the hen. She can store about 2 weeks worth of sperm in her system. So she can build about 2 weeks worth of babies and, have a fertile egg. We eat fertile eggs. Don't worry about it. You're not going to get them in the store, but when you get an egg, if you got a rooster, your egg's going to have a little dot on it. I'll show you what that looks like. That means it's fertile. That means if she sits on it for 21 days, you put an incubator for 21 days, you got a chance to make a chick. But nothing in the store is going to be fertile. You're not going to have anything fertile. I say this because I worked with a lot of kids over my career, and I don't want the babies to be scared to eat eggs because they saw a chick coming out of it. Sometimes when we did the egg programs, they said chick coming out of it, they never eat an egg again, and we don't want that because they think they're eating baby chicks. You're not going to do that. But one more thing about it is, even if you've got all your codes in place, you can still get in trouble for noise and still get in trouble for nuisance, like smells and different things. Keep them clean. We're going to talk about biosecurity and keeping them very, very clean. Hens are typically only noisy. They only make an egg sound, usually when she lays an egg. She'll do a little egg cackle. You would too if you laid a bowling ball, so I get that. But she does a little egg cackle when she does it, and that's really the noises the hen's going to be. These are prey animals. Prey animals have to be hidden. So they still have old behaviors from ancient times where they stay hidden. So they don't make a lot of noise. They have no natural smell, okay? Did you hear me? They have no natural smell. Cat box smells, not the cat, okay? That's what happens. Keep the coops clean. Yes, sir. Did you have a question, sir?
Yeah. When we're dominant hen, eventually they'll start crawling like in the stomach,
Yeah, all of them can crow. All hens can crow. They just don't because again they want to keep quiet. They're the ones that take care of the babies. Rooster has no care of the babies, so hens don't typically. But she will. She will start if you got a dominant hen. She'll start crowing a little bit, but it won't be as noisy as a rooster would be. It won't be as much as a rooster would be. Roosters crow every morning when they get up, when it's sunlight. They just let the world know they're alive and let all the other roosters in the area know they're alive. They don't crow really to wake you up. They're just crowing because they're marking their territories. They'll crow if they hear something in the night, middle of the night, they'll hear something. They might crow then to warn. It's a warning is what it is. It's either a warning or it's a mating sex call to try to get the hens to come in. So there's two different calls they do. And a rooster might go after his favorite hen 10 times a day, basically. And they're not, gentlemen asked me, will the rooster know what to do? I promise you that rooster's going to know what to do. And he's going to know what to do over and over and over again because he does it quite often. But he'll take the dominant group. They'll be the ones first that he'll breed. Then sometimes he won't even breed. If you got 10 hens, sometimes 6 through 10 won't even get bred. That's not dominance. They want the strongest ones. So the strongest ones with the most aggressive behavior are the ones he's going to choose to make the next generation. Lions do it in prides. It's the way it works. It's natural survival, right? It's the way it works. This is nature. Nature, the strongest survive, so they know how to make the strongest one. Amazing chickens. That's the red jungle fowl. That's where they all come from. We're going to go through this pretty quickly because you're going to get this. This is going to be available. Red jungle fowl. There's Asian jungle. They're still there. This is still a chicken we can reserve. About in the 30s, in the Dallas Zoo in the 30s, there was a tornado. And they had a flock of red jungle fowl. They got out. The tornado tore the pens up. They still see them out in the areas out there, those red jungle fowl. They can go anywhere. Basically, the reason why chickens are so popular worldwide is you can take them in a small cage. You can eat the eggs, and they can go anywhere with you, and they can adapt to everything. There's been chickens on every continent. When Antarctica was habitated, just with research teams, they had chickens there. So there's been chickens on every continent that live on every continent. So they can be spread around. Highly cognitive, self-aware animal. They're extremely smart animals. It's not a dumb bird. They can't live in a social group. They can't live in a pecking order if they're dumb. They're not dumb at all. They have animal intelligence. Animal intelligence is to be as smart as you need to be to live in your environment. So they can adjust to a wild environment, or they can come into a backyard environment and adjust to dogs and cats and little kids. They can adjust to those three monster things, then they'll be okay. Those are the three things that get them. But they can adjust to all this. So they're easy to adjust. That's where they came from. They're so, because they do the pecking order, they're social, they can be a lap chicken. You can have them as tame as you want them. You take a baby chick, you hold it all the time, it will sit in your lap. That is Winston. He sat on my shoulder forever. I lost Winston a couple of years ago. But he would sit on me. He would follow me around. I would call him. He would come to me. They know their name because they have vocalization skills. You talk to him nicely. You call one chicken the same thing every time. He's going to know who he is, and he's going to know what you're saying. He's not going to know exactly what it means, but he will know what it is. They don't think they're humans, okay? They just think we're ugly chickens, and they accept us to be in their flock. And once you're accepted in a flock, they will do the same. He was a little dominant rooster, so he accepted me in the flock. He'd sit on my shoulder. Every once in a while, he'd peck me on the side of the head. That was a love peck. That's what they do. They peck each other. So that's a love peck. That's to let me know he's still there and he's still dominant over me. So he would show me that. But they can be very tame, or they can not be tame at all. You can just get them, let them go, just enjoy them, have them in the coop, let them out, let them come back in when you're not there, whatever you want to do. There's certain ways you can do it. You can either keep them confined all the time, you can keep them in a house, in a coop, and go out. But we'll talk about that too. So let me get to that. Let me kind of slow down, not get ahead of myself on it. Selective breeding. There's diverse and different physical appearance. There's a Shirama that's about 9 ounces, and then there's a Malay. The Malay is a Malaysian bird. It's about 3.5 foot tall, 30 pounds. Can kill a dog. They're very aggressive. I'm going to show you a picture of one right there. Those we don't want. They don't lay very many eggs and they're extremely mean. Typically, there's certain breeds of chickens that have been fighting forever. That's the game breeds. They're extraordinarily mean. They're not good with kids. They're not good with humans. They don't like each other either. So they fight all the time. Facts. Did I have a question? You okay? No, don't need a rooster. Social order. We talked about pecking order. When you start out, get at least 3 hens. Okay? Start it with at least 3 because I want a dominant one. I don't want the aggression of that dominance to be spread between 2, not just 1. If you have just 2, one's going to pick on that other one all the time. It's going to always do it. And it's not picking in a way we think about being mean or bullying. It is social structure. So basically that dominant one is basically showing that second one that I am the boss. Now if you got 2 of them, you can spread that out a little bit. So I'm the boss of you 2. It spreads the aggression out and they do in a more order. Number 1 is always over number 2, and then you're going to figure out if you've got 3, there's number 2 that's going to be over number 3. That's the way it works. All the way down, we've counted 10 down where all of them are aggressive. So this one is over this one. Number 1 is over all of them. Number 2 is under everybody under. Number 3 is under everybody under. That's how structured these social structures are once they set them in place. They can be different breeds. You can mix breeds as long as it's not an aggressive breed, but you can mix your breeds up. That's nice to have because you can have them all over the world, different types. So it works out well. And they'll make a family, once you mix them up. Clean animals, like I said, they don't stink. The coop stinks, okay? The poop stinks, absolutely, but you got to keep it very clean if you want to keep them healthy. Pullets. That's what I want y'all to understand. Pullet is a girl. I want a girl. Boys don't lay eggs. Okay. A&M's tried it. A&M tried a lot of crazy things. We tried it. A&M didn't work. So we had to ag it back and say, no, this is never going to ever work. So you want pullets. You don't want that. And when you buy pullets, what I want you to understand is, about 90% of the time, they're going to be girls. They're going to say pullet, but when they do is they have a microscope. They have to turn that baby chick over. And look at those baby chicks. And they have millions of chicks they sell. Found chicken sold 5 million chicks year before last, whatever it was. They check it, and it's so microscopically small that they do. I'm amazed they get 90% correct. But sometimes you're going to take a chance. And 1 out of 10 is going to be a boy, maybe. Maybe not, but it could be. So understand that too. And understand what's my game plan for that. What's the game plan going to be if I get a little rooster? Because if I can't have a rooster in my neighborhood, believe me, you're going to know you got a rooster in the neighborhood because once he gets about 3, 4, 5 weeks old, he's going to start squawking. That first squawk is like an adolescent boy changing his voice. It's horrible. Sound like you're stepping on a cat. It's very, very loud and very, very squeaky and very, very bad. So you're going to get that. So understand that might be what you're going to get. So be ready for that too. I just want to get you aware. Cockles, doesn't matter. Day old chick, started chick. The new program here, already laying. If you go and order some of those, you're going to get a girl, right? They're going to lay right away. So they're going to be ready to go. I think you said 18 weeks or something was when they were coming in. So they're ready to go. At 18 weeks, they're either laying or about to lay. So that's about how long it takes. So get them like that. Sex chicks go into roost just when they sleep. Imprinting is what makes a baby chick. That's Winston. When he was a baby, he had one little cat toy. He's the only one hatched out of the whole group. He had that little cat toy that he imprinted on, and then he imprinted on me because I would hold him because I was his mama too. And that cat toy had a bell on it. So in the middle of the night, I hear him ringing the little bell at night. I knew Winston was fighting with his toy. He's fighting with his little fluff. And then up top is that's Ricky up top. He was the only one, so he imprinted to. Imprints how you make them tame. When they see you, because these chicks you're gonna get. These chicks never saw another chicken as far as mama goes. You're gonna take over that spot. They're gonna imprint on you. They're gonna follow your direction. You can, like I said, you can make them as tame or as wild as you want them to be. Broody hens. Hens will go broody on some. That is a real picture, because there's been lots of what a broody hen will do. If she goes into a full brood, and you got a barn, and you got rats in that barn, she'll collect those baby rats and sit on them if she doesn't have eggs. If you're taking her eggs, she's gonna get something else. They'll sit on baby kittens. They'll sit on baby rats. They'll sit on baby pup, whatever it is. When they're broody, all they want to do is take babies, take care of babies. They just go absolutely crazy. They growl, they grunt. Even the sweetest of birds, she growls, she grunts, and she looks like that. She looks at you like, I hate your guts. Look at that look. Look at that look on her face. She hates everybody in the world except her babies. She gets very aggressive with the other chickens. So just remember, broodiness. If I got a broody hen, we're going to know it because she's going to be in the box. Normally, they're going to go by. They're very specific on their daily routines. So if all of a sudden I've got one hen that always is down or always comes to me, and she's sitting up in a corner, if she's not sick and she got eggs under, that means she's broody. Take the eggs out from under her. If you don't want babies, take the eggs out from under her and make her go out with the other ones if you're letting the other ones out. Take her out, make her out. Now, she's going to squawk and grunt and be mad. She might run right back in again, but that's how you can help break the broodiness. Eventually, she'll break it on her own, but it could be 2-3 weeks, 4 weeks maybe. And that is 4 weeks that she's not laying any more eggs, because once they go broody, they're only going to lay a certain number of eggs. They're going to stop laying eggs. They're ready to sit on babies now. And if I got a flock that'll keep laying eggs, she won't lay any more eggs. I got to get away from that if I want eggs from her. So just beware what broody is. Very easy to get rid of. Very easy to slow down, but you got to take time to do it. Proper balance of diet, we'll talk about that. I'm not going to talk about it too much because Jean's going to talk about it after me, talk more about nutrition. So I'm not going to talk a whole lot about it. Buying a bird from a supplier, obviously, you want a reliable supplier. You've got one here. Certified NPI, certified hatching. That means they've been tested for everything. Nails and trim. Some breeds, you have to trim their nails and beaks. Their beaks will grow like a fingernail, so you might have to trim it. Not all of them. It depends on your soil, too. If I've got clay soil at home, if I've got real soft clays it's not hard that they can scratch on, their nails might grow faster. If I've got cleachy soils or rocky soils, they'll naturally wear down. But just be aware, if the beak goes too far over, it's called a hot beak, then it's going to have trouble feeding. So basically, trouble eating. So basically, just watch it and it'll be clear. You cut it back just like you cut a toenail. You cut your dog and cat's nails, that's what you do to these the same way. Just don't cut back too deep because they've got blood. They've got a blood vein in there, but you might have to do that. 3 minutes, just watch your flock. Once you learn your flock, once you understand your flock, how many people have chickens? Do you know your flock? Do you know what they do every day? Do you see do they do the same thing every day? Basically, for the most part. They do. They'll do the same thing almost every day. They'll be the same way towards you, towards dogs, towards cats, towards friends, towards people. They recognize faces. They don't like everybody. Some people they'll never like. Some people they love to death. Sometimes they don't. I always had to get kids to be quiet around them because kids will be loud. And if you're boisterous and loud and make a lot of quickie moves, they're not going to like that. So they're not going to like you and they'll never like you. Once they don't like you, they'll never like you. It's hard to get them back in that flock. They just remember. They got a great memory. They have to have a memory because they could be a flock of 60. They have this wild flocks of 60 and they got to know each other. So basically they have great memories. Don't get more than you can handle. Start small with 3. Keep the environment clean. Very important. Be a good neighbor. That's just no-brainer stuff right there. Talking about mainly for people that are in neighborhoods. This was more important years back when this got 10 years ago when this was phasing into it, where people didn't understand because a bird is not a dog or cat. A bird is a wholly different animal. Sometimes you say, I'm going to get a chicken. People think your house is going to look like a farm or something. So basically, you got to talk to your neighbors, let them know. And you can legally have them, but you just don't want a bad neighbors. Be a good neighbor. So housing. Let's get into housing. I'm going to break down housing. I'm going to go very short through nutrition, and we'll go through breeds themselves and talk about babies right there. Those are my coops. 5 coops, 5 flocks. I had 5 flocks. For 10 years, I had 5 flocks. I had 1 rooster, I had 1 hen. I had 1 rooster, had 2, 1 had 3, 1 had 4, 1 had 5. So I was looking at behaviors on what the roosters do when they've got how many hens it takes to make them happy, basically. And the number is 3 that I came up with. This is not a replicant study, but if a rooster has 3 hens, Winston had 3 hens and they didn't bother the other girls, the other flocks in there, right? Because they all went out together. he wouldn't bother him. But the one that had one, Ricky had one. He was after every girl he could see. He left his little hen behind and went after every girl he could see. So ladies, number is 3. Keep the rooster happy, okay? That's what it takes. Guys, don't think it's going to help you guys out, because it ain't going to help you guys, I promise you. But that's the number it takes. It takes that for what I saw through observations. So basically, if I'm going to have a rooster, at least have 3 hens to keep him balanced, to keep him there. And you don't need to mix like I was doing this for study. I was doing this because I taught this and I learned, through teaching and through doing all this stuff. I taught everything I teach. I teach about vineyard, about making a vineyard, because I had a vineyard. Basically, is why I did it. But I teach this, but I've had these and I've tried to do different tricks so I can help you make this successful for you and make it easy. So, house in your flock, coop, house, okay, run, pen. Very simple. If you're gonna go out and just be out in the country, you got 50 acres, you're gonna be out in the country, you might just have the house. And they come in at night in the house, they stay protected in the morning, you either let them out or you have an electric door that opens up, and they come out in the morning, and at night they'll all come back in. They'll all come back to roost. They will come back to their own house. It takes them very few time. We were talking earlier about how young. If I got baby chicks in the summertime out there, I'm taking these baby chicks outside pretty early. 6, 7 days. They're going to come out with me, but they got to be under brood, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But if I've got the older birds, like the older birds that you're going to get, give them some time in the coop itself. Get them used to the area, let them see the area, and then you go out, let them out, and let them come back in. But just watch them to see how they're going to do. They will eventually come back to roost. All my chickens went back to their own coops. All those coops you saw there, they all go back to them. They didn't get in each other's coops. They didn't cross over. The hen and roosters would go back to their coops themselves. And they were in the whole area that they were in was 1 acre. They had a full acre to roam, and they'd always come back to it. They will come back to the coop because that's where they know. They know it. As a wild bird, they're a jungle bird. They're a ground bird, means they lay on the ground. They lay eggs on the ground, but it also means that they would go forage at night or forage during the daytime, kind of go out and forage during the day out in the field. And then at night they're going to come back in and go back into the bushes and step into the bushes, into their area bushes. So, and they go back to the same place. They knew where to go because it was where they were safe. So they will go back. It just takes a little time if you're going to let them out. Just watch them and get them back in. I'm talking about 18-week birds. Baby birds, they're going to come back pretty quickly. They're just about how old. This group, I started taking, depending on when I got them. If it was colder outside, I had to leave under the brooder for 10, 15 days. But if I had summer babies, some of those Seramas went in the summer, then I would take them out 5 or 6 days. I would let them come out with me, walk around slowly. I had 2 big dogs that didn't bother the birds. The chicks would eventually go to the dogs, peck at them and everything else, and pull their hair and stuff. You get to know the dogs. But very early on, but it's got to be warm enough. It needs to be at least 85 degrees outside, 80, 85 before I'm going to let those babies out there. Normally, if I'm raising them, getting them through the brooder, I'm going to put them into a baby hatching pen, which I'll talk about there, but that's about 5 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks. 6 weeks maybe. I want them to feather out fully. In about 6 weeks, they're pretty feathered. So basically, and you're going to get them at 18 here, so they're going to be fully feathered birds ready to go. So if you go get some of these that are ready to go, they're going to be ready. You'll have it where you don't have to worry too much about them. I got to build my coop. I want to make sure nothing can get over the top, so it's got a nice solid roof, keeps the rain out, carrying through. I use hardware cloth. I do not use chicken wire. Chicken wire it's crap. It just comes apart. Hardware cloth, that's that galvanized square cloth, that galvanized square metal, 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch squares. And basically anything that gets through that 1/2 inch square, say a snake, a small snake, the chickens will eat it because chickens love to eat snakes. That's one of the favorite things. They'll just suck it in. So anything that can get through it, they'll kill it and eat it. So I'm not getting bigger things in there. This coop is sitting on blocks and sitting on those blocks around it. That is done so a fox or a raccoon can't get and crawl under. He'll come to the wire, try to get in, but he'll scratch the thing. So basically, I don't want things to crawl under it or dig under it, which a fox will, raccoons will, possums will. They can get under that if you don't have some kind of protection. And that's digging under, squeezing through, tearing through with the dog. A dog typically can't tear through hardware cloths. Can't tear through chicken wire because the dog will pull the chicken wire out. Hardware cloth is good enough if you don't do it. There's hardware cloth I just showed you. Another way to keep her from digging out is, I don't know if you guys can see this very well, but the wire comes all the way down. See how it's coming out? Come out about 2 foot, then cover that with dirt. And basically, you've got a nice screen bottom down there so they won't come in. So far, so good. Makes sense? Am I going too fast? Because we got to get everything through, so we got a lot of stuff. So far, so good. Chicken house. House, right here. That's a nice one, too. Really nice. It's going to be where they're going to sleep. They're going to come back and lay eggs. They're not going to eat in it. They're not going to drink in it, okay? I don't want water. I don't want food inside where they're going to be pooping. I want that to be a separate thing. I want them to poop out of the coop. Now, they're going to poop at night in this, which is fine, but I don't want food around it, and I don't want water around it. I don't want anything in there because I don't want... One thing the food will do is draw in rats. You'll get rats in there real quickly. But that's a sleeping, that's a laying eggs. And when I'm doing a roost, I think I've got it up there. I want to roost. I want them to sleep on a bar at least a foot higher than my nesting box. I want the nesting box on the ground because they're scratch nesters. They would nest on the ground. And then I want the roost at least 12 inches up, 18 inches up. And that way they won't poop in their nesting box. People that have poop on their eggs, I guarantee, when it happen, if they come in and they got poopy eggs, they built a nesting box and the roost at the same level. If I'm going to sleep and be protected, I want to go in a box, right? They don't want to sleep they want to sleep as high as they can get. So they will be up there. I think I've even got a picture of that one. That's the coop. That's the house. Okay? Good ventilation works. Passing materials, don't worry about it. Just good material. Not feeding water, control poop in the coop. All my coops have a different type of perch where they sleep on. None of the perches run wall to wall because I don't want them pooping on the walls. Because this is where they're going to go. What they're going to do is they're going to eat before they go to roost, and then they're going to poop all night, basically. So they poop in a little line, and every morning I just come scoop it out, put it in the compost. I don't have to change the whole thing out. I keep controlling where it's pooping. I'm going to make them poop right there in the same spot, and that's where they poop at. Very well vented, absolutely. About 5 square foot per bird inside. That's only 2.5 by 2.5 foot. They need some space to be able to maneuver themselves when they sleep or when they're comfortable. You crowd them up, you get them under stress, and they're going to be susceptible to all kinds of diseases and all kinds of bugs they're going to get them. They can get all kinds of things, typically not any problems with us, but problems with them. And you got to be sure that they get some space so they can actually have some comfort in their feet. We talked about a foot over. Big, large doors makes it easy to clean. Very, very easy to do.
Okay, one question on that.
Yes, sir.
So each bird has his own little.
No. Each bird doesn't have it. They'll line up on the one. But what it is that one's in a square. This one's my other one here. I got a 2x4 hanging. I got a branch across it, and then at night they line up like this. They'll sleep lined up like this. Every night they sleep in the same spot. They don't change spots. So they'll sleep in the same spot, and they poop in a little line right under. I take my little scooper, scoop it up, throw it in the morning. Every morning I clean it. I clean it every day. And now it's so easy. It's a minute. You can take a minute to clean them because you're going to need to take a minute to clean them. Don't let them get dirty. Don't let them start stinking. Keep them clean. Keep them busy streets. So they help a lot. But they just don't run. This doesn't. It's hard to tell. None of them run to the walls. So they don't poop on the walls. They don't get anything on the walls. The walls are clean. Latex paint inside or acrylic paint inside, nice and clean, easy to wipe down. And if there's any mistake where they actually get too close to it and they urinate on it because they do pee, but they go on it, it's easy to wipe off. But it won't absorb into the wood. It won't smell that way. That way it'll be clean, so you don't have to worry about the smell. You got to keep them clean. You got to keep them fresh. That is pine shavings. I think you know what it is. Okay, just other things. The vinyl floors in the coop. My coops are raised, by the way. My coops are off the ground, and the pen comes all the way under here. So the pen comes under, runs out into a bigger pen, but they're raised up and they go up a ladder every night to get into it. It even makes them get up even higher. They're even more comfortable getting up into the coop. It also is at this level, because I'm this tall, it makes it very simple for me to clean it. Very easy to clean, take care of. Very, very simple to take care of. That is what I do with the coop. There's the nesting boxes. See the nesting boxes? Over the lip, they're on the ground. The rooster up high. That way they're going to roost. Those roosters just happen to be in a square. I was trying different ways to roost them. Doesn't matter. It's easy anyway because they're just going to poop straight down. It's going to be easy to clean them. Big windows, hardware cloth, encrusted window. I've got it mashed in. I've got it basically wood to wood on the window so somebody can't push the window in. We haven't had the bobcats in our backyard, but some bobcats in areas and different things. That's the worst of all of them. Would be a bobcat, I would think. Would be worse to get into it. But just things to make it more secure.
Before you go on, I have a question about the vinyl flooring. I've blocked several Facebook shipping club things, and there's been a lot of discussion about vinyl floors. Is there some with certain glues that are better than others? I mean, I haven't have chickens yet, but
Yeah, the best ones I get are the ones that cost me 40 cents. The cheap ones. The cheap ones. I go and get the Home Depot. I think I have Home Depot. They're 40 cents a piece. They were just remnant ones. The glues themselves, you're going to glue them down anyway, so they're not going to be up anyway. You don't have to do that. Huh? You could paint that with acrylic paint and be just as successful. You don't have to have that. Just things I did because I was testing different ways to make it as secure as possible, to clean as easy as possible. With the actual litter in there, nothing really gets to the vinyl floor anyway because I keep it clean. I clean it every day when I go out in the morning. First thing in the morning, I clean it. So nothing gets to them anyway, so I don't worry about it so much. But don't worry about it. Don't use that if you don't want to use vinyl. It's just a way to, yeah, and glues, they're not going to get to the glue. They're not going to eat the wood. They're not going to peck the glues. They're not going to do things like that. They just don't, that's not what they eat. They'd rather eat a wiggling bug than anything else. That's their favorite thing. Things that wiggle and move are their favorite foods, and then secondary would be what we feed them as a feed thing. But there's just simple things to do. But don't worry about it. Just paint. Just use a good acrylic paint to make sure it's clean. Yes, ma'am.
So it can have plywood.
Absolutely. Just paint on the plywood.
Painted.
A good acrylic, a good hard-wearing paint on the plywood. That's fine. I like it light colored so I can see things in there. Because if you got issues, there's going to be, if you ever have mites and lice, which they can get from outside birds, from basically wild birds, what you'll see is you'll see them. They're going to, in the night when they come, the lice feed on them. In daytime, lice come out and the chickens go out. But you can see them walking up down the walls in white. That's why I like white, because I can see anything wiggling, or I can see different stains and stuff. Yes, ma'am. But you got to have a perch in there or something.
Okay.
And I would do a round perch. I'd do a dowel, basically not a 2x2. I would do a round dowel because their feet are made. Their feet are actually made to go around branches. And if you do square, they can get arthritis a little easier.
I think once though, look at it again. Do you even see the space? I figure out they sit there.
No, they're perfect, but
Well, that's why they perch, though. They do. They're going to sit there. They're going to squat when they perch, and they're going to sit down and squat and go to sleep. Yeah. Yeah. If the box told you it's for 3 chickens, they probably lied to you for one thing. Because well, they you can put 100 in here if you wanted to, but that's not the way it works, right? That's not what you should do. You gotta think about. That's why I kind of give a measure. I kind of get 5 square foot per bird. So basically, what's a 20 by 20? 20 by 20, or not a 20. A 5 by 4 is 20. That will give you enough room for 3, 4 birds, 5 birds. Just something where they got enough room to go. I want them to have enough room because I want them to stay there. I just lost Lily. She just turned 17. Okay, Lily was 17. Wow. Dottie is my next oldest. She's 16. She's about to be 17. They can live to early 30s genetically, but typically because of factors they don't. Because of I've worked on trying to get them long lived to see what they're going to do. Of course, Lily hadn't laid an egg, or Dottie hadn't laid an egg. She hadn't laid an egg for 14 years, 13 years. They only lay a few years. Yes, ma'am.
dirt floors.
Dirt floors, I'm going to show you better than the dirt floor. I'm going to show you the floor for the run. I'll show you better. Now, in the coop itself, you're talking about in the actual coop itself, I like cedar, okay? I like cedar shavings for the coop itself, and that's what goes into my compost. For my runs, that's cedar, not cedar, pine shavings. Pine shavings, not cedar. I don't like cedar. The pine shavings I like.
In the coop.
In the coop itself, like that. That's pine shavings in the coop. Now the run, we're to the actual run itself. Run sits on the ground, and I put about 6 inches of mulch, shredded hardwood mulch. You can buy it anywhere. 6 inches every year. I don't replace it ever. I never have to clean it. I never have to take it out. It is a composting floor. Anybody compost? In composting, you have to have a green and a brown to compost. This is a brown composting system. This is a carbonated system where basically when they poop, it just absorbs it. It breaks it down immediately. That's the only green it gets, so it doesn't decompose very much. It's like a forest floor. It decomposes very slowly. This is one thing that I've had more people come back and tell me it helped them than anything else. Keep the run. Nice thick layer of mulch. If you got tree shavings, if anybody does trees and shreds trees, put the tree shavings in there. Absolutely fine. Put the tree shreds in there. That stays in there, and that basically will keep a nice composted brown floor. That's the way it goes. Runs about 15 square foot. That's blue, and it's girls out in their run. You see you can see it. They got mulch in there. One thing about feeders and snow and waters, what I want you to understand is when I put them out here, I want to protect it. I want to make sure that no rain can get into it. I don't want to make sure, especially the food, because if you get wet food, it's going to go rancid. But in the water itself, I don't want really rain to get into it, especially in the summertime necessarily. If it is, rain's less for the water than it is the food. What I don't want it to do is I do not want those waters or feeders where wild birds can get to it. Anybody heard of avian flu? Anybody have heard of this? Don't freak out over it. It's not a deal. It's not a big deal yet. It's not a big deal here. What it does is it's generally by wild birds, bring it in, and they translate it by body fluids, drinking out of the feeders, drinking out of the waters. Now, if you're out in the field and you're in the country, I get it. You're going to put waters around there and you can do it out there. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about smaller areas there. Just make sure that it doesn't get water in it, or doesn't get water in the food especially. But anybody, don't freak out over avian flu, okay? The one case was from a dairy cow. There's more cases from dairy cattle than there is from birds, from chickens themselves. The ones that typically get it would be workers in the actual industry to get the blood on them. Or if that's part, there's culinary, there's different culinary wise that eat raw meat. That's an issue. That virus, you can get that virus, but we really don't have it here. Don't really have it in backyard flocks. Not that it wouldn't get there. You got to keep watching. Don't go. Just look at CDC. CDC's regulating it from day to day, week to week, on what is going on, what is happening. But we don't really have it. Very low here in Tarrant County. Very low in Texas.
So you said you don't like the rain getting into the water supply, but there's a lot of stuff online where they collect rainwater and then feed it into like a holding tank and then feed it to the birds.
Yeah.
Your opinion?
No. I just don't, because that's where the pathogens are going to develop. It's going to be in that water, in rainwater. Rainwater has no chlorination, has no kind of filtering system to where it's going to be in there. Will it kill them? Not necessarily. Can it be an issue where in the summertime they could get different kinds of protozoa and different kinds of gut issues? It could be if you don't clean it. If you keep it clean, yes. If it goes rancid, I would, if you don't want to drink it yourself, don't give it to them. Okay? Basically, because these animals can't just do it. Now, they'll drink out of a mud puddle. They'll drink out of, they'll go drink. They don't care, don't know that part. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about confined water. In different ways we can find it. If it's hot and confined, it's going to go bad. It's going to have issues with it. So just try to keep it as clean as you can. Don't do it. You don't have to do it. I do it every day because it's easy. I use a 1 gallon water, plastic water, 1 gallon, change it every day. Very simple. I've got a routine. It's part of my routine. It's easy to do every day. They got fresh water and no big deal. But you don't have to necessarily do it. But rainwater collection, if you got a filter on it, yeah, there's people that filter it sometimes and go through. If it's not collected over a week, then you'd be okay. Basically, you could do it forever and it doesn't hurt them, okay? I'm just saying what could come up. Basically, these can come up. I want to give you ideas of what can come up. I've seen the most elaborate water systems that weren't worth the crap. They put all this piping in there, put all these little red nipples on there, and the birds have to figure out what the nipple is. But the nipples get plugged and different things. And if you like them and they work, do them, use them. It's not that they won't work. It's just on what's easy for you to do. But just keep the water clean. Keep it as clean as you can possibly keep it, basically, and that'll help them with their system flush out. They have to drink because they don't have any kind of teeth to chew up the food. They're going to eat. It's going to go in the crop. It's going to be digested. It's going to go or it's going to go into their crop, go down into the gizzard. It's going to be ground in the gizzard, and they need water, need moisture to make that work. So basically, did you have a question?
Yeah, you recommend pine inside the coop and
Pine inside and mulch outside. Mulch on the floor.
Is cedar mulch or
I like just hardwood mulch or tree trimmings from the area, stuff like that. Tree trimming. They're, again, it's natural to their feet, it's natural to their body, it's natural to their systems. And basically, it's in the summertime, what you'll see them is you're looking to run, they'll dig out the mulch and they'll be laying in the holes in the summertime. They cool themselves in the holes. So they know what to do with it once they get it in there. Yes.
So when you were talking about they come back to the coop, so I have just like a postage stamp in the backyard, and I originally had 2 hens, and I had a coop like you described, the nesting boxes. It had roosting bars where the run starts under the coop.
Yeah.
One of my hens had died, so I was left with one for a little bit, and I had gotten 2 hatchlings, brought them home, put them in a brooder, raised them and everything. My one existing hen, she was having none of it. She didn't like them. She didn't care for them.
Yeah, that's it.
She gets along with them now, but in that interim, I thought, well, they're going to need a different sleeping situation if they can't be trapped in the coop with her, because she will destroy
She will
them.
kill them because it's not part of the crop
And
yet.
so
basically, we do a cage in a cage. We'll put a small cage within there and leave them in the
we're
cage.
past that.
We're past it now, but I'm taking for everybody else that wants to bring older hens in. If you got over hens, you can't just throw them in the flock. You know, when you got a whole flock that's already set up with the social structure, you can't just throw other chickens in there. It's not going to work. They're not going to let it. They're going to kill it, or they're going to try to kill it the best they can. If you got a pen like this, it's a pen in a pen. It's a kennel inside that run. Let them get used to each other. Make sure the kennel has food and water. They'll get used to each other a few days that way. Now, it's harder when you just let them go, but eventually they will. Eventually, they want to build the flock bigger, but they just don't want to do it all right
Well,
away.
what I wound up doing in the interim while the babies were still living indoors in the brooder, I had gotten kind of like rabbit hutches, and I modified them to where they now have like windows, so a crossbreed, and they're protected, you know, with hardware cloth, and I put locks on them so that you know, raccoons or whatever
Yeah.
can't get in. And they're just a little bit up off the ground, and the door opens like a ramp.
Sure.
And so the two younger ones, they are both 6 months old now. They still do not go to bed at night. And I guarantee you right now, they are sitting on my potting bench near the coop. It's a very small,
She's not letting them in. Yeah, she's not letting them in.
No. She has her own.
Okay, so yeah,
She's
they
a
won't go in there.
solitary confinement because she's mean to them, and they have a luxury suite together, but they don't go in it. And so when I get home, I'm gonna have to go to the back porch and go, okay, dum-dums, here you go, get in the bed, and then lock them up because they don't go.
They won't go
And I
back
know
in.
that there's a trick about like keeping them locked in the coop for a couple of days.
Well,
you
yeah,
know.
I mean that's what we
But
typically
this
would
is
do. To
very,
them.
it's small. It's like a rabbit hut. So I'm wondering what kind of solution in
Well,
that.
that's one of those things where they just don't like the area
Move the
enough to
potting
go in.
bench and maybe confuse
Have you
them.
put a sign up with their name on it?
Right, I know.
That might be as easy as anything to get them
Their
to go
names
into it.
above the door.
You could and say this is yours, and basically they'll go into it. That's what I did when I did the vegetable garden. I did the kitchen gardens outside. I put a sign up, no chickens in the kitchen garden. Didn't work. I had to build a fence.
Mhm.
Didn't work.
Yeah.
So eventually you got to put a fence in there to make it work. So you got to do what you got to do. That's a hard one, honey, because it's one of those things where they need a bigger space maybe to go into. Just and then they just sometimes are mean to people. They just sometimes do it on purpose and say, you know what, I ain't gonna do what you want.
You know what's funny is now that they've been outdoors for as long as they have, my original OG Nene, she's cool with them, and they're not afraid of her anymore. I'm like, well, great. Now that I've already gotten rid of my original
But
coon,
now they're bugging you.
I'm right.
Yeah, so she's happy about that. She got her revenge on that. But these are the coops in behind. I put a lot of plants around to basically make it friendly because again, jungle animals. You can grow a lot of good stuff. And around it, I've got gardens around it there, and those are blackberries or those are blueberries. That's an apple tree. Things can grow around it because what happens in carbon floors when you've got it in the run itself, that floor in the run is very, very organic and it's very good for growing stuff if you want something to tap into it around it. So you can make it work as part of the environment. These are just runs and coops. We got a great one here. So I don't have to show you these too much. Just different ways they do it.
So you take that mulch out and feed it to the blackberries and whatnot?
The mulch doesn't have to. The blackberries are planted beside it. It'll tap into it in the root systems. They're sitting right beside the cage, so basically the roots go into it and it bleeds out. I'll do real quick with this one. If I'm designing a small holding with a small farm, okay, I'm going to put my chicken run and all my chicken stuff up the hill because I want all that good nitrogen to come down the hill to all my vegetable garden. Okay, that's just permacultural 101. You can manipulate the terrain to where you can make the best of all the nutrients within the soil because nitrogen migrates and moves. Nitrogen moves around. So that's why it's moving. Not only does it move out, basically things will tap into it. So basically, chicken coop on the hill, vegetable garden, lower it down the hill. And when it rains, it's going to pull all that manures and stuff that are broken down. It's going to pull all that manure down into it. Or all that good. It's not manure then. Now it's actually good fertilizer. 10 minutes. So we got 10 minutes. So those we're going to go the houses. We won't go through too much. Nutrition. Gina's going to talk about nutrition, so I'm not going to go through it at all. So she can talk about it. Supplements. These are the 3 supplements I basically use. Oyster shell because they need a grit. They need something to be able to eat, to be able to digest their food in the gizzard. So oyster shell is good because it's calcium. Lots of calcium. I'll throw this in the garden. I'll put it in their coop. I'll let them eat it themselves. They'll eat it when they want it. I don't really put it in a bowl. I just make sure they've got some around them. This is what I train them with, mealworms. You get them as a baby, 5, 6 days old, you start crumbling mealworms and start getting them to it, they will follow you anywhere. So basically, they'll come, all they gotta do is shake the bag. Now, I got the groups where I could call them, they'd come in, but shake the bag, here they come running to the mealworms. Mealworms are about, I think they're 60, 80% protein, 30% fat. So it's good for them systems. If I've had a puny bird, I like to add that to their supplements. They don't have to have it every day. I'd like to have them hunt when they're foraging because they need to forage time to go out and hunt. But basically, that's what you do it. But you can add that as a supplement. And then, of course, scratch grains and scratch grains. Jenny can talk about scratch grains. I want them to work for the scratch grains, okay? I don't want it to be in a bowl. I want them to exercise to get it. They will, too. They'll kick and dig. They'll dig and kick and everything. The amazing thing about chickens, it was so easy when I was teaching kids, elementary kids, for behaviors, starting the behaviors, because a baby chick, 1 day old, coming out of a brooder, or coming out of its incubator, at a day old, it's going to come out and it's going to start looking for food, okay? Doesn't have mama to show it. 2 days old, it's going to start scratching the ground. Okay? Who taught it to scratch the ground? How does that work? That works because they're amazing. They have amazing innate behaviors, but then you teach them how you want them to be in your. That's why they're so easy to teach. They've got a lot of behavioral structure set up already. But those are supplements. Gina's going to talk about it. Fruits and vegetables, summertime berries. I get lots of berries, melons, leftover greens, things like that for supplements. Keep the water cool and clean. We've talked about it. In summertime, I put water bottles. I put these little bottles. I freeze them. Put them in the thing every morning. Keeps the water cool during the day. They have to have cool water to drink, so they'll drink the water. And that's easy enough. There are nipples. You can buy this. Get like the little nipples that go on the end of these coolers. They might sell them here. Those work well too, where they can get it. You just have to make sure they know what the nipple is and how to use the nipple.
What is that white thing that's in the cup?
Just frozen. Those freezing things,
Okay.
freezing blocks, basically. These are freezing blocks of these water bottles. One or the other to keep the water cool. Do not feed these things. This is a big list of do not feeds. There's other things, don't feed them. But these are the main things that you might feed them that you don't want to do it. It's self-explanatory, so I won't go through it too much. Raw eggs, okay? Let me tell you why not raw eggs. Not raw eggs in the shell, okay? Because if they put 2 and 2 together, and they understand that good egg is in that white, that good inside egg is in there, they're going to break their eggs. They're going to be egg breakers, and you'll never get an egg again. They'll break every egg, and they'll eat it before you get it. Egg breakers, you got 12 chickens. You don't even know who's breaking the egg for one thing. You have no clue, but they're going to break all the eggs. So feed them. Raw eggs are great for them, especially if they've been puny or stuff. Raw eggs are really good for them, but you got to feed it I whip them up and put them in a bowl. That way I feed it to them. I don't want them to get that shell, understand that shell. The shells go in the compost for me, okay? Shells go out in the compost, not in the coop itself. That oyster shell gives them the calcium. The feed that Jeannie's going to talk about has calcium in it already. They mix calcium into it. So basically, you're from a baby, and feeding's easy. Babies get baby food, adults get adult food. That's as simple as it is, and it's got that all lined up for you. Those are basically not to feed. Starting your flock, come here, extension office. You got a great resource right here. Go to somebody who knows what they're talking about. Not a fly-by-night, not an agendaed YouTuber, okay? Not an agendaed website. I don't want it to be agendaed. I want it to be the truthful. I want to tell you the truth. I'm telling you the truth. If you don't think you got time to do it, don't do it. Don't get them. If they're not for everybody. They're not going to be for everybody. And you can't just take them to the pound when you don't like them like you can a dog, okay? It doesn't work that way either. You're going to have to do something with it.
That's where mine came from.
Did you? Yeah.
I do dog rescue, and somebody dropped off of them.
Oh, they do, and I had to work with them. I've worked with them there. One time, real quick, in the city of Irving, I worked at the city of Irving. They're one of their animal controls. They had a house in the middle of an older neighborhood. The people moved out of the house, had 12 fighting cocks in that house. They were doing the fighting in that house. They let them go in the neighborhood before they left, okay? The neighbors were complaining because the cocks were chasing their dogs. And they're chasing everything they could see. And there was 12 in this one neighborhood. We had to trap them one by one by one to get them back. They all came back. Once that dominant rooster was trapped, here comes that second rooster. That's how this works. The second rooster came back to the yard, which was the home base, and they trapped him. All the way through, they finally got them all. But people were scared. People were walking out, and they were chasing them. People were coming out to you, flapping and squawking. I mean, it's different. Birds are different things. I mean, you look at them, you can be scared of them. A lot of people are scared of birds.
I think we had one of them.
You might.
On the previous slide, on the first thing, it was, I saw pepper. They can have pepper flakes, like.
The flakes itself, it's mainly, I don't want to eat the plant or the pepper itself. But pepper flakes, I don't know why they want it, but they could, I guess, if they.
Some
Exactly.
people will use it as, either a dewormer or a preventive.
It's
I
better.
don't know how well it
I know,
works.
and it's
They'll
better.
eat it.
Well, they'll eat it, but it's better if you keep the water clean, keep the food clean. That's the best way to deworm them, basically, because that's typically not a huge issue in backyard flocks, the worms particularly. But it's a nightshade family is poisonous, or collective poison, so it builds up over time. It can poison your system just so.
Question on seeds, like I've got a place in my areas that will just seeds. I'm trying to predict what those seeds potentially.
I'm only worried about apple seeds. Apple seed, yeah. So apple seeds are the one I don't want to have. I don't want, of course, beans. The apple seeds themselves at the bottom, the actual seed itself is cyanide, has cyanide in it, which builds up over time. So you don't want to eat the seed. You don't want to eat the seed because cyanide's a build up in the system and breaks down blood cells in the system, but it does it over a period of time. Could be a week, it could be a month, but it's going to weaken them. They're going to get other diseases and die out. So you want to do that. Starting your flock, you're going to do all this. Just do what you're doing here. This is a perfect way. Talk to other people. You've got a lot of resource in this room. This is not the golden book, okay? This is just suggestions to help you look it up or to help you find other ways to do these things. Ways to get them: eggs, day-old chicks, started pullets, which the program's going to be here. They've got day-old chicks. They've got pullets already that are going to be sexed already there. Problem with doing eggs in incubators, you don't know what you're going to get. You can get 20 eggs and get 20 roosters. There is no measure. There's no for an alligator. We can take an alligator. We can turn up temperature on the eggs and make it a male or female. Turn it up or down. Chickens, you can't do that. We don't know what we're going to get. So you got to have a plan. If you want to do eggs, you hatch them out. You're going to have a plan with those roosters because, again, roosters don't lay eggs, so it's not going to be something you're going to get out of them. So the best way, 2 ways for me to do it, just somebody trying to start with chicken, day-old chicks. That way, if you want a lap chicken, you can tame them from day one. You're going to have to go into a brooder. Simple brooders. I'm sure they sell brooders here, brooder light. So they're going to have to stay under a heat lamp for at least 10 days, 14 days, depending on the time of the year. You got to get them up. You got to get feathers on them. You got to get them moving around a little bit. Get them there. Then you can move them into a starter coop before you put them outside. You can't put them outside. I like to put them outside in about 6 weeks. About 6 weeks when they're fully feathered out. I don't put them out ever in the wintertime, obviously, but basically you get them this time of the year. It's the perfect time of year to get them because this is spring coming into spring. By the time they're going to be ready, and these older birds are going to be fine. You can put them right out in the coop, but that at 18 weeks, they're old enough to go out right away, so you're going to be good. Yeah. There are types of chickens. There's some that don't live. The bigger chickens, the bigger body chickens, tend to live less than the smaller body chickens, and I'll show you some of them. This is just hatching. That's the hatching. That's them hatching out. That's a incubator with a wire cage because that wire bottom, they have to get their feet under 'em. And that wire helps them get their feet under. This is about 15 minutes or so after they've been there where he's dried out. That is Winston. After he's dried out, he's into his brooder now. There. But I'll show you some basics. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Taking care, keep them warm 10 to 14 days. You're going to get this. We won't get this. We won't go through this too much. Here's the big issue with babies. Face the button. They've never pooped. Okay? Once they get out of that first day, they never pooped ever in their life. You got to watch your little butts to make sure they don't have poop stuck on it because that system doesn't push yet. Once they get the first poop out, it'll start pushing. They'll be okay. But you got to give them a chance. You got to get past that pacing button. Warm cloth, wipe their butt off, they're fine. But if you leave it to stay there, it's going to plug them up. They're going to blow up. They'll pop. Don't want to pop a chick. But they'll get sick. It's bad for the system. Yeah, there's no cloth. Just wipe the poop off. Yeah, it's just a hard little clump. It'll come off, and they'll poop out. They'll poop out of it. Once they get that first one passed through the system, they'll be okay. Choosing breeds. That's a big breed. Dual purpose, ornamental, layer breeds. Layer breeds, a lot of eggs, more flighty. Got a bigger pen helps. Tend to don't stay in the backyard nearly as much as some of the others would. And the ornamentals are ones that are just for feathers, dual purpose. They're big enough, eggs and meats. Rhode Island Reds, all that are big enough bird where you could cook it if you wanted to, but it lays a pretty good amount of eggs, and they're pretty good egg layers. Different color eggs. You know what determines what color the egg's going to be? How we can tell? It's part of the bird. Ear. Yeah, ear. They have a little ear under that flap, and we can kind of tell what the color of the egg is going to be from there. Very few lay white eggs, by the way. Most of them lay brown eggs. That's the most of them in worldwide brown eggs. Dual purpose, you'll see different types, Rhode Island. See all the big bodies, bigger bodies, more meat. Those tend to not live quite as long as these layer breeds that I'll show you. They can live a long time, but they don't live quite as long. Dual purpose, Dual purpose again. Ornamentals, see your ornamentals there? Just by feathering. Either they got crazy feathers, or if you ever get Polish crested, anybody got Polish crested? They're crazy because they can't see. You got to keep the feathers trimmed out of their eyes. Feathers go over their eyes, they bump into things. You think he's just slow. But he's not that. He's not mentally challenged. He can't see. So you're gonna have to fix it. Make sure it's out of there. Silkies are like little rabbits. Their fur, their feathers don't connect to each other. So you got to keep them in a coop that's really dry. Keep them warmer because they can't warm themselves basically. Ornamentals again, different types of ornamentals, small, different types of leg, different ones. You can kind of figure that a bird with a lot of feathers all over him and leg feathers on his legs probably doesn't do as well in Texas as these guys do. Leghorn, as far as just they go, but these are the ones that are going to be great egg layers, but tend to not be good for confinement. They're smaller body, and they can fly, by the way. Chickens can fly, and they will fly, and they will go off on. Now, anybody got leghorns? You like them? They're good layers.
They're good layers.
They're great layers, and if you don't want to particularly have them as a lap bird, they're great bird for that. So basically, but just different types of birds. They can help you here with that too. But there's so many different breeds. Sex length means when it's a baby chick, we can tell if it's a rooster or hen because it's got a little dot on the back of its head. When it's little, makes it easier for us to tell what's what. Pre and leg bars halfway. That's a newer version of the leghorn. Typically a bigger bird, pretty good little layer. Breeds to avoid. Okay. Game birds. We talked about game. There's a Malay. See that Malay right there? Show them. That's a 3 foot long. He's 3.5 foot long. And look at this. Look at the claws. The claws are as big as this man's hand. Right there. You put one of those in a schoolyard with kids, you got Jurassic Park. I can tell you right now. They will. They'll go after everything that moves. They'll go after everybody. You can't put two of them together. You can't put two of the hens together because they kill it. One will kill the other one. These are not what you want. The thing about the Cornish cross, this is the best meat bird on the market because about 7-8 weeks it's marketed. Okay. Problem is, if you raise it to be marketed like that, raise it really quickly and make it big so fast, a pound a week, about 7, 8, 10 weeks, it's going to fall apart. The legs will break out from under it. So if you're going to use those birds, I'm not saying don't use meat birds, but they're not going to be long-term birds for eggs. They never lay eggs because you eat them before. You eat them at about 7 to 8 weeks and take them to market. So that's not one that you want as a backyard bird. And some of them I don't understand why. Featherless birds. This was an experiment. This actually started in Israel, where they think how can we streamline our production? Let's make a bird with no feathers. Let's make a chicken with no feathers. That way we don't have to defeather, because that's the biggest part of butchering the bird and getting it through. We got the bird that, and what they found out was a bird with no feathers dies, for one thing, but he gets sunburned. And they need their feathers. They don't live very long. The biggest breeder of this in this country is University of Arkansas. And that made sense to me. I got that. Arkansas would be the one that would do that. Arkansas's got a great breeder program, but I believe that. Anybody from Arkansas? So I believe Arkansas will do that. But these are Vietnamese dragon chickens, just horrible looking. Mean as can be, horrible looking. Hate everybody. Fun. What a great event. I want to thank everybody for what's activity going on.
We're going to go ahead and transition over to some nutrition stuff. And so Miss Gina from Purina is here and she's going to help talk us through some of that.
Thank you. Well, it's kind of hard to follow him because he's such an expert. I had the pleasure, we were trying to remember, we think it was like 6 or 7 years ago, we did a meeting together. So it's fun to see him, and I'm a little jealous of the Bermuda, and I can tell he's ready. He's going to get rid of his chickens. I just am going to visit with you actually really briefly, just to talk a little bit about nutrition, like when you bring in your birds, when they become layers. Same thing, ask questions if you have them, but at the end I'll be around. And so if you have any questions when we're finished, I think we'll both be here. And all these people in these teal blue shirts are also great resources to ask questions. They know a great deal. So chickens have become big. We were just talking, like chickens you can enjoy for a variety of reasons, but there are a lot of different ways to feed your chickens. And if you look on the internet, you get all sorts of thoughts and ideas. I don't know how much you guys know about Purina. We have a research farm just outside of St. Louis, Missouri. We used to do a whole lot of research on commercial chickens, but today we actually do a whole lot of research on small flocks. So we have a lot of coops set up at the farm, and we do a whole lot of, we feed different types of chickens, we test new diets, and do a whole bunch of things. So I think over the years, Purina, we understand the enjoyment of having chickens and having eggs. We also understand the science behind it, and our products really do produce good eggs with hard shells, if that's the kind of things you're looking for. Sometimes you guys just like having chickens. Some people love to get the eggs, some people like to enjoy them. But when you get your chicks, you want to make sure that we feed them slow and steady. So these diets that we have are balanced to do that. You don't want them to grow too rapidly. We don't want to hurt their nutrition so that they fall behind. It's really important to grow chicks right so that when they do become layers, that they have that strong foundation. It's that way with any species of animal that we talk about. You need to lay that foundation to get to where you need to be. Oops, I went the wrong way. So all of our Purina starter feeds contain 18% protein. They all contain the right nutrients to get your birds off to the right start. You can see we have several options. We'll talk a little bit about what those start and grow options are. We also have organic. We'll visit just a few minutes about that. But you want to feed a starter feed to your chicks until they are close to laying, till they're about to lay or are laying, or 18 weeks of age. So it's really important. You don't want to feed a layer to them. You don't want to feed your layers a starter feed because their needs are actually very unique and different. All of our starter products have like prebiotics and probiotics in them for gut health. We have the Chick Strong system, and then on the organic, it is certified organic and non-GMO. So we get asked a lot, and so one of the things I do want to cover is kind of what medication is in chick feeds. How many of you think it's an antibiotic? No? Everybody? Good. A lot of times people are afraid of the starter feeds that are medicated because they're worried about them being antibiotics. It is not antibiotics. It's something that feeds through their system to keep them healthy. And so the reasons that you would go with the medicated feed. So it is in there to help prevent coccidiosis. Coccidiosis is prevalent in a lot of species of animals. If you raise like some livestock, you're probably familiar with it. Coccidiosis is somewhat specific to different species, but it's very similar in how it acts in each of the different animals, and includes chickens. But it's an intestinal parasite, and so if it takes hold in that small intestine, they just, they're battling. They're both trying to get the nutrition, and then eventually the chicks aren't able to absorb all their nutrients because of the damage to the small intestine. So it's important once you start with a coccidiostat or the medicated feed that you stick with it. Don't bounce back and forth because they need it the whole way through. Amprolium is the product that is in the medicated feed. And some chicks are medicated, but do you see very many I guess you can request it from the hatchery, but most of them.
You can order vaccinated.
Yeah. Did I say medicated? I meant to say vaccinated, but I think that's the thing that scares a lot of people because they want antibiotic free, but luckily this is not absorbing into them. It's not going to be an issue with resistance in humans. And most of the chicks that make it through feed stores or, like he said, come up to this area are not medicated. It's normally by request if you work with the hatchery. So if you do happen to get medicated chicks, you don't have to feed the medicated product, but you need to stay off of the medication, because if you do start to feed the medicated product, then you need to stay on it because you mess up that immunity the chicks got from the vaccination. This is just an idea to give you an idea if you are new and looking at raising chickens or getting chickens for the first time, like you heard what all you need to have to set up at home, but sometimes people don't think about the feed piece. And luckily for you, that's not a very expensive part of your project. It's ongoing, but it's not a huge expense. But if you're going to get 5 chicks, you can typically count on like 2 bags, 2 50-pound bags of chick starter is what you need to go through that 18-week period. You can see if you have 20 chicks, it require 6 bags. So, and then from then on, they eat about 1/4 pound a day. So if that gives you kind of a figure of what you're going to need to plan for as far as feed. So we talked that you keep them on the chick feed till 18 weeks. Once we get past that, then we're going to move to a layer. So we quit focusing on growth and laying that good foundation. Now we're focusing on helping her with egg production, helping keep her body in good condition and have all the right nutrients that she needs to lay quality eggs. So you can see we have quite an assortment of products. So some of these are not always for the chicken. Some of this is some human things. Sometimes people like pellets, people like crumbles, people are looking for different things for their chickens. So that's why there's just a little bit of variety. There's the Oyster Strong system is in all these products, and it's really focused on that eggshell. And we are coming out with a new layer coming in April. So it'll be a textured layer, but it has, I still think personally pelleted layers are the way to go because they can't sort. And so they get all their nutrition, with every bite they take of like a pelleted feed or a crumble, all the nutrition is in there. But textured feeds have become, going back to the people side, have become very popular within the backyard block. And so we will be having a product like that for anybody who is interested. And to me, like these products, for lack of a better word, they're not sexy. Like there's a lot of science between these, and that's kind of how Purina, I think, has always been. Like we're very about the science. We're about like egg quality, number of eggs, that kind of thing. But there really is a trend back towards textured feed. Exactly. Yes. Yeah. And to what he said, we're going to talk about it a little bit, but some of that's like candy and can create issues. Yeah. Yes. You do not. It's in there. Yep. Oyster shell's in there, the right amount of calcium, like everything they need to produce a good eggshell is in the products.
So you're going to explain what each one is.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Like not in great detail. So if you have more questions, come ask, but I am going to give some highlights. So most of the options are either in a pellet or a crumble. The omega-3 is in a small pellet. We call it a mini pellet. And it works also for some of the smaller birds. And then we have a high protein option that I'll talk just a little bit about. It's in a small pellet too. All the layers are non-medicated because we talked about coccidiosis, but that's a problem traditionally in growing animals. So once they become adults, those hens, coccidiosis is no longer an issue. And so we mentioned it before, but you want to feed when you get your first egg or at 18 weeks of age. Laina. So this is tough because I know a lot of people feed Laina to roosters. Technically, it's not the best nutrition for male birds. There is a product called Purina Flock Raiser, so it's made for mixed birds, but it's a little higher in protein, not as high in calcium and some of those things. So just know that laying feeds are not the most ideal for roosters. Sometimes you can raise a feeder up a little bit higher because sometimes the roosters are bigger and they can get to that feeder. But I do know that it's hard when you have both hens and roosters. But the Flock Raiser product will work actually as a layer. So if that concerns you, it's an option as well. And for like laying birds as well. So just to go into the details, you asked about all the different feeds. So Purina Leina has always been kind of our flagship product. It has the prebiotics, the probiotics, Oyster Strong system. We have it in both a pellet or a crumble. So depending on what you or your bird's preference is, but it's just a very sound nutrition for layers. It's been a staple in our product line for a long time. So it's a really, really good product. The Leina Plus Omega 3. So how many of you take fish oil pills? Okay. So do those taste good? Like, do you not? Like, sometimes there's some burping and things that go on with those that doesn't taste good. But if you're looking to get omega-3 in your diet, that is what this product is for. So this is Leina for the chickens, but there's added flax and things that are high in omega-3s. And those hens actually put those omega-3s, that extra, into the egg. So these eggs are, like in a store-bought egg, there's about 50 milligrams of omega-3. Our research at our research farm, the omega-3 eggs have about 250 milligrams. So if you're taking fish oil and you're interested in getting omega-3s into your diet, this is the product for you because it actually has a little bit of a human nutrition side. Then we have a new product, it's the Leina Pearls. And so for anybody that wants more of an extruded product, so there's probably less waste with an extruded product, like the hens get more of it. So that's an option if you like that kind of feed form. It really is the same nutrition as the crumbles and the pellets. We then have the organic. So anybody who likes the organic, non-GMO, that is available also with some of the same attributes like the Oyster Strong system. The Leina Plus High Protein, we've had it for just a bit. We changed names a couple years ago. So if you're looking for a higher protein product, that's the one we have right now. It's a mini pellet and it also has black soldier fly larvae in it. So it has a little bit of insect protein. That higher protein is also good for birds after they've molted and you want to feed a little higher product. So we have that available. So Scratch, this is kind of going back to what he said about candy. So to me, Scratch is, everybody sells it. I think a lot of people feed it, but you in particular need to limit how much Scratch grain you give. It would be like if you gave me a Snickers bar versus like pea. Like, I'm going to eat the Snickers because I like the Snickers, but it's not going to do much for me. The same with Scratch. Like some of the grains are in these feeds, but if that's all you're giving, it's what they're going to prefer. And so it starts to dilute out the really good nutrition of products like Leina. So you want to limit how much you give of that, and you for sure don't want to feed it to your growing chicks because you're going to start to, what's that?
More like a treat.
It is more like a treat on a limited basis. Like, I promise I'm getting close to the end. I actually am at the end. So, you guys have any, well, first I want to mention, we have, I know we provided you with some some materials. We have a great website. I do want to brag on like our dealers, like Russell Feed and Supply. I feel like their employees are very, very well educated on chickens and can give you some good information. And there's definitely one person in every store who knows a lot about it. So those are some additional resources for you. You guys have any questions? Yes.
So you did give the omega, one of the omega plus. You still use Scratch grains as a treat.
No. Yeah, the whole, it's like a complete as far as nutrition goes. Everything's in it, and then if you eat the eggs, you get a little bit more omega-3.
Would you put that in the feeder or spread it on?
The feeder. Yes. Yes.
Gina, will your presentation also be on the link so that?
Will my presentation be on the link?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Sure. Yes. Yeah, so I didn't really cover that, and two things. The flock raiser works really well for meat birds. The flock raiser product is like a mixed flock product, so if you have like ducks and chickens, it's meant to be able to feed to one. So it does work for meat birds, but we also have a meat bird product. Sorry that wasn't in the session, but we do have a product for that.
So earlier you were talking about roosters not needing to eat layer feed. If you have all hens and pullets, but say you've got under 6 months that still need to be eating their medicated, feed, then you've got this one over here that's, layer feed. Can't keep them out of each other's feed, Is it okay if the adult hen, has some of, as long as both are available?
She asked if it's okay if chicks and layers can have access
Like
to
if
each
they're
other's
eating a
feed.
blended diet of both.
It's not the best, and
Yeah.
the reason is like the layer has a lot of calcium in it to make sure they produce quality eggs. Too much calcium is detrimental to like bone development. Like they need it, but you don't want to provide it in excess.
So then what about the ones that are under 6 months that would still need to be on their medicated?
It's ideal if, so I realize not everybody's situations are workable, but it is ideal if you can keep them separate and keep them on the two different products.
Grown-up table and the kids' table.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it. So yeah, it is ideal if because they are structured to be different. So if you guys have questions, I'm gonna go ahead. I know some of you maybe need to head out, and I know they have some door prizes, but if you have any questions, I'll be around afterwards. Just feel free to ask me. And thank you so much. This was a great group. Thank you for listening.